questions. Would the arrival of world champion Alain Prost push Ferrari to the front? Would a winter of controversy slow 88 champion Ayrton Senna? And who among the young lions would rise to challenge the stars? The last question was answered first, as Frenchman Jean Alesi leaped past his elders in an inferior car and battled Senna on even terms in only his 9th Grand Prix. Senna then showed he has lost nothing. He finally subdued Alesi and pulled away to an 8-second victory. And Ferrari, 2 cars, 2 transmission meltdowns, and no World Championship points in Phoenix. Today, Ayrton Senna returns to Brazil in triumph, hoping to win his home Grand Prix for the first time. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. For the first time in a decade, the city of São Paulo and the Interlagos Grand Prix circuit will host the Formula One Grand Prix of Brazil, second round in the 1990 World Championship. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Barsha. Behind me, you see just the tiniest fraction of the incredible sprawl of São Paulo, Brazil. At 17 million citizens, one of the 3 largest cities on the planet. Bringing the Grand Prix here from Rio de Janeiro is a great coup for the São Paulo organizers, but it comes at a very difficult time. New Brazilian President Fernando Collor de Mello has introduced a financial austerity package of historic proportion, essentially freezing the financial assets of every Brazilian. Still, the organizers have managed to come up with the equivalent of $15 million worth of improvements to the Interlagos circuit to bring the race here. And to tell us more of the kind of racetrack they've come up with, we welcome our ESPN Formula One analyst and the newest holder of an international racing super license, David Hobbs. David?
Well, Bob, they didn't just tart up the old circuit. They went the whole hog and they built themselves a completely new 2.6-mile circuit here at São Paulo. It hasn't been received with absolutely universal admiration by the drivers, some of whom say it's lost the superb flair of the old circuit, but it certainly is safe, although just a bit bumpy for a brand new circuit. But the hundreds of thousands of Brazilians here today are happy boys, because on the pole for the 43rd time out of 96 starts is Ayrton Senna. And right alongside him is his teammate. But the gap's closing. They're only tenths ahead of the rest of the field. Well, yesterday was practice and qualifying. Today is the race. And down at what could be a crucial part of today's race is John Bizignano.
Thank you very much, David. It's 2.6 miles around this altered Interlagos circuit. The drivers think it's a very safe circuit, but I'm standing right in the middle of turn 1. On every single lap, the drivers will have to negotiate some 150 miles an hour of deacceleration. They will arrive at the beginning of this corner at some 190 miles an hour, and they will be on the brakes down to around 40 or 50 miles an hour for turn 1. A little bit of a design fault here in Interlagos. The exit of the pit lane is right at the apex of turn 2. The design of Interlagos will definitely help make for an exciting Brazilian Grand Prix.
Thank you, John. The starting line here at Interlagos is also slightly uphill, which means all 26 drivers will be trying to balance clutch, brake, and throttle pedal as they await the second green light of the 1990 season. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Grand Prix of Brazil is brought to you by Acura Automobiles, #1 in customer satisfaction 3 years in a row. By Mobil, Mobil 1 synthetic motor oil. Isn't your car worth the extra protection? And by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. We'll be back to check the weather conditions, introduce the starting grid, and get ready for the start of the Brazilian Grand Prix right after this. In São Paulo, Brazil, and there are plenty of thousands more of the Brazilians at $75 to $100 a pop who have come to support Nelson Piquet and Ayrton Senna racing in their home Grand Prix. Here's a look at the weather conditions. The skies are partly cloudy, temperatures 85 degrees, but the humidity makes it seem much warmer. Winds at 10 to 15 miles an hour blowing from the drivers' backs as they reach 190 miles an hour at the start-finish line of the racetrack. The weatherman says we'll have scattered thunder showers the rest of the day, so weather could be a factor in today's race. The cars beginning to make their way around this 2.68-mile racetrack, 26 strong, among them 3 world champions. A very tricky racetrack. This is the S-turn named for the '88 world champion Ayrton Senna, and we should point out that after a winter of bitter controversy involving the international governing body, there is great support for Senna, and the signs reflect great dissatisfaction with the president of the FISA, the international sanctioning body, Jean-Marie Balest. Some of those signs are very graphic. You may find some of them a little bit objectionable. If we see anything untoward, we'll tell you about it. Here's the way the field will line up. As David mentioned, for the 43rd time in his career, Brazilian Ayrton Senna has wowed the home fans. He is on the pole. Next to him will be his McLaren Honda teammate, Gerhard Berger of Austria, who had the pole in Phoenix. Row 2 will be all Williams-Renault, and they'll be carrying our in-car cameras. Terry Boutsen of Belgium will be on one side. Next to him, Italian Riccardo Patrese, making his 194th Formula One start. On row 3, all Ferrari. Nigel Mansell of Great Britain. They need to redeem themselves after dropping out at Phoenix. Alain Prost of France will start in the 6th hole. Row 4 will be the fastest V8 car in the field, the real star of Phoenix, young Frenchman Jean Alesi. Next to him, Italian Pierluigi Martini, both cars on Pirelli tires using Cosworth engines. Row 5 will be Andrea de Cesaris of Italy, having another good run, the man with more starts without a victory than any other in the field. Next to him will be Frenchman Philippe Alliot on Goodyear tires in a Ligier with Ford Cosworth power. Row 6 will be young Frenchman Eric Bernard, a bit overshadowed by Alesi. He'll be in the LaRousse Lamborghini. Next to him will be Italy's Stefano Matta in the Brabham Judd, once again running on Pirelli tires. Row 7 will be Nelson Piquet in the Benetton Ford, made the last start for that car before the new one arrives. Next to him, Martin Donnelly of Great Britain, equaling his best Formula One qualifying effort in the Lotus Lamborghini. Row 8 will be Alessandro Nannini of Italy in the second Benetton Ford. Next to him, Gianni Morbidelli of Italy, sitting in for Emanuele Pirro of Italy, who is out sick. Row 9 will be Paolo Barilla of Italy in the Minardi with Cosworth power, only his third Grand Prix start. Next to him, Aguri Suzuki of Japan in the second LaRousse Lamborghini. Row 10 will be the lightest driver in the field at 130 pounds, Satoru Nakajima of Japan in the Tyrrell. Next to Italy's Nicola Larini in the Ligier, once again Ford Cosworth power there. Row 11 will be Olivier Griard of France in the Pirelli Shadow Sella Cosworth. Next to him, Gregor Foytek of Switzerland, making his last start for the Brabham Judd team. Row 12 will be Michele Alboreto of Italy in the USF&G Footwork Arrows, carrying another in-car camera. Next to him, Derek Warwick in the second Lotus Lamborghini. Great straight-line speed in those cars. The final row, Alex Caffey of Italy in the second Arrows with an in-car camera, and Yannick Dalmas of France in the AGS car. Those that missed the cut, Stefan Johansson and J.J. Leto for the Onyx team. Ivan Capelli and Mauricio Gugelmin, a heartbreak for him. He's a native Brazilian. Roberto Moreno, Gabriela Tarquini, Bertrand Gachot, Claudio Langes, and Gary Brabham failed to make the field as well. David, a quick look at the field as we're ready for the green light.
Well, of course, the thing about this course is it's very, very physical. It's got about 12 turns and 3 sweeps, but all the turns are very long and extremely tough on the drivers next because they're going the wrong way here. This is one of the few left-hand turning courses.
You see the cars coming to the grid. On the left is your pole sitter Senna. On the right is Berger. They'll have a few seconds before the green light comes on. Our in-car cameras are in the Williams cars and in both of the Footwork Arrows machines. There is the red light. Down come the clutches. It's an uphill start. Berger slides in behind teammate Senna, and he slides over now to block Terry Boutsen in one of the Williams. The Ferraris on it low, and we've got an accident.
Oh!
It looks like it might have been one of the Delaras.
Just gone off.
Gone off backwards at one of the few fast corners that has room for a car to go off, and he did it about the best that could have happened, David. He went off on the outside of the track. If he stayed on, he would have come down to the apex.
I think what happened was one of the, I think it was either Philippe Alliot or Nicola Larini in the Ligier got trapped as they come up to the front line there.
Here's another look from high overhead in a helicopter provided by TV Globo, the Brazilian network. You see Berger in the second place car blocking the Williams, but look, 3 or 4 cars behind is the blue.
Didn't exactly get trapped. He tried to be brave, tried to make up places on that start, and nudged one of the Delaras off, which is well and truly into the fence.
Looks like Andrea de Cesaris.
It does indeed.
Now remains to be seen what is going to be called here. 71 laps scheduled for this event. We'll see if they're going to start. It looks as though they are. Ayrton Senna on the point.
40 into second gear. As he sweeps through there, he'll pick up third straight away here. Then he sweeps right up through the gearbox here. 4th, 5th, and finds a 6th. Still going downhill here. Not very steeply now. Very steep down to turn 1. A gradual downhill here. Hard on the brakes again. You can see the rubber strips there on the back of the car. That's not exhaust flame. Down to probably 4th gear. Long left-hand corner, and then, as you can see, the road keeps on going left. Terrifically tiring on these guys here because they're used to turning right everywhere mainly. Okay, a right swing here, probably either 4th, maybe in 3rd. And as you can see, all these corners are really, really long, which is very tough on the driver's neck, his upper torso, and, of course, very tough on the front tires.
Senna is your leader. The fast lap has been turned in by Boutsen in 3rd position thus far, and Senna has left no one behind him, less than a second to the 2nd and 3rd place cars.
Down to this long, this is another steeply downhill left-hander. Again in 5th gear that. Hard on the brakes, back to 4th, and through this last tight left-hander as they come back up to rejoin the start-finish straight.
And with that, they will finish lap number 5 here in Brazil. A huge crowd on hand, and it is a very gay crowd, a very happy crowd, despite the fact that everybody has very little money. They managed to come up with enough to get into this racetrack, and they are really enjoying seeing this man up front. He is very much the national hero right now. Just turned 30 years of age last Wednesday, did Ayrton Senna. There is his teammate, Gerhard Berger.
Well, Senna, of course, very much the man of the moment here in São Paulo. This is his hometown, not only his home country, but actually his hometown. Mind you, some town with 17 million inhabitants. But Gerhard Berger, we could be having a bit of a problem here. It may be that Senna is, in fact, holding Berger up, but Senna drives tremendously intelligent races, and he is no doubt setting himself a pace at which he feels comfortable, and that he feels he's going to really try and reduce the front wear on those, or the tyre wear on those front tyres of his. And he may just for the moment be holding Berger up. And of course, Berger won't want to be held up too much, because right behind him is Thierry Boutsen.
Senna is your leader. Berger, Boutsen, Prost, Mansell, and Patrese follow. Jean Alesi driving with a queasy stomach. He's picked up a little bit of the bug that has affected many of us here in Brazil, holding down 7th spot. That's where he qualified. Behind him, Pierluigi Martini, Stefano Modena, Philippe Bayot, Nelson Piquet, not doing well with that exclusive Ford V8 engine that's supposed to be so much more powerful than the Cosworth and the V8s directly ahead of him. Martin Donnelly in the 12-cylinder Lamborghini Lotus is just behind him in the 12th spot, followed by Aguri Suzuki, Eric Bernard, Satoru Nakajima, Paulo Barilla, Derek Warwick, and Olivier Griard. And the Lotus cars have really been an enigma this weekend, David, as we watch Senna circulating in the lead. They have been right up among the fastest cars in a straight line, but they qualify at the back.
Well, they obviously need to do some fine-tuning on their balance between aerodynamic downforce and drag. The cars have been extremely fast in the straight line here, but have not done some very good lap times. Now, part of that is due to the fact that they've spent an awful lot of time parked in the garage. And if you're in the garage, you can't be setting fast lap times. They've had a pretty rough weekend. I'm sure that Derek Warwick is particularly peeved.
Senna has quickly opened up a 1.35-second lead over Berger, has begun to drift back a little bit, but only 0.3 of a second behind him is Thierry Boutsen. Very much a battle for second place.
Gerhard Berger definitely drifting back into the clutches of Thierry Boutsen. Boutsen didn't go quite as well in warm-up this morning as he'd hoped. They'd made a chassis change overnight, but he said after the warm-up, I will change it back to how it was yesterday, and I think it will be good for the race. And so far, it doesn't look too bad, and I'm sure it looks extremely good to Gerhard Berger.
It's been 10 years since they raced here at Interlagos, and only 3 drivers in the field, Alain, Prost, Nelson Piquet, and Ricardo Patrese.
Now there we're seeing young Gerhard from Thierry's view. Look at the speed. Thierry using that slipstream to full advantage. Can he do it? Yes.
Sharp left-hander coming up here.
Now you can't do better than that, folks. Up to 3rd there. Then he'll snap 4th, 5th, and 6th here.
And Thierry Boutsen must be absolutely rejoicing in that car. There's been a knock on Boutsen lately that he doesn't race well. He can pick up the victories by driving very steadily in the rain and so forth. He won his 2 victories in the rain last year. But people have been criticizing Boutsen for his lack of get up there and mix it up with the big boys. But he just took down Gerhard Berger, and that's saying something.
Well, and also the new Stage 3 Renault engine doesn't look too shabby either, because he made superb ground on Berger as they came up that long, far straight. He used the slipstream to good avail and whistled by him on braking. And
we're going to take a quick timeout. Ayrton Senna is your leader, followed by Berger, Boutsen, Prost, Mansell, Patrese, Alesi, Martini, Modena, and Philippe Bayot. They have dirt and short track pavement racing, maybe even a little drag racing and some other things thrown in. You're not going to want to miss it. April 7th, Saturday Night Thunder at 9 p.m. Thierry Boutsen circulates in 2nd place, having taken down Gerhard Berger for that position. Ayrton Senna remains your leader. The gap, 2.6 seconds. We had a small get-together on the racetrack as it looked like Michele Alboreto and the Dallara of Gianni Morbidelli in his first Formula One race came together, touched wheels, and you cannot do that in these open-wheeled cars. Morbidelli went off the racetrack backwards. Excuse me, no, it was the Osella. It was the Osella of Olivier Griard.
Olive Gruyard may be stuck in the mud here because they had a lot of rain on Thursday, and the environ of the racetrack, as it were, are still extremely slippery, and pretty well every car that's gone off there over the weekend has been stuck well and truly. Thierry Boutsen hammering along well. The old Renault V10 revs to about 30
twice, and he has never won. We'll see how he does when we return to the Formula One Grand Prix of Brazil.
One of the main reasons for a somewhat peculiar grid in Phoenix is due to the fact that Pirelli takes a very special approach in supplying their teams with incredibly competitive qualifying tires. We talked to Dario Casavelli about the special approach to qualifying.
For some reason, for some technical reason, it's possible to use one set of tires for 2 or 3 times. That means usually the qualifiers are only good for 1 lap, maximum 2 laps, and then the tires are finished. With the Pirelli tires, you can shave this tire. You just, clean the surface, the tread pattern of the tire, and the tires are good another time. And as happened here in Phoenix, this second possibility sometimes allow the driver to be even quicker. So Martini was second and De Cesare was third, using buffed tires, as you say, clean tires, not the brand new.
Pushing his point, but there we see, I think that's Nigel Mansell going around Nannini to lap him. But this track, as you can see, mainly goes left. All the predominance of the corners are left-handed. And these guys pretty well race everywhere with right-hand turns. And the neck and the shoulder muscles definitely build up to take account of that. And suddenly they've all got to turn left. And they've all got some pretty dodgy old neck muscles.
Recapping as you look down from a helicopter high above the racetrack, Ayrton Senna is your leader, followed by Terry Boutsen, almost 5 full seconds in arrears now. Alain Prost 1.4 seconds behind Boutsen. In 4th place, Gerhard Berger 2.2 seconds back. Nigel Mansell almost 4 seconds behind Berger in 5th. 6th place, Riccardo Patrese. 7th, Jean Alesi. 8th is Pierluigi Martini. 9th, Nelson Piquet. 10th, Stefano Modena, followed by Satoru Nakajima. Martin Donnelly doing well in the 12th position. Aguri Suzuki, Michele Alboreto, Alex Caffey, Paulo Barilla, who has been lapped, and Alessandro Nannini 17th. Yannick Dalmas is 18th.
Prost is really hounding Thierry Boutsen.
Coming into his pit, the 2 mechanics flying up in the air. They both recovered. 2 mechanics and tires went all over the pit area. He had to be doing 60 miles an hour. He is in the 2nd pit. Terry shaking his head. Mechanics, one knee is bleeding very hard. They have to change the nose. Yes, the mechanic that was hit on the left-hand side of the car went right up all the way over the top of the air box. Now that nose is coming off both sections, the lower section and the top section. Oh, how is Terry Boutsen going to recover from this emotionally? He looks very upset in the car. Black streak marks coming all the way in. He did not reverse the car. He was pushed backward by his crew, and then he went forward into his stopping area. A very, very upsetting stop, and one problem he's having is that the McLaren boys directly behind him are ready to stop. Now McLaren management's trying to get them to move the car out of the way. They're not having any of it. That car's not going anywhere until that nose is totally fixed. Terry Boutsen, very rough pit stop here in Brazil.
You're watching from a camera suspended over the pits, just under the ceiling. Now, you know Terry Boutsen very well, David. How is he likely to react to a situation like this? I think we're going to get a replay of what happened.
Yes.
Oh.
I don't...
Thanks for trying, TV Globo. We certainly
Well, that
appreciate it.
was
We'll get another look.
Pretty pathetic replay, but we saw roughly what happened. Thierry and the mechanics were out of line. John's got some more action for us. John?
Prost had a very fast pit stop. Oh my gosh, he pulled out right in front of the arrows. The arrows had to lock up all 4 wheels. This is one of the widest pit lanes in Formula One, but boy, it's crowded right now. When they're planning everyone to stop, they can't do anything else but come close to one another. Prost, a perfect, looked like a 6 or 7 second pit stop.
Well, you saw a brief replay there of what happened to Terry Boutsen. His tires and mechanics went flying. This is Gianni Morbidelli in his first Formula One start for the Dallara team, replacing Emanuele Pirot, who is suffering from hepatitis and could not be here in Brazil. Now you're on board once again with Terry Boutsen. And my question, David, how is he likely to react?
Well, I think that Thierry's going to be pretty upset, actually. He's not unduly sensitive, as most racing drivers are not. But on the other hand, he'll be very worried about that guy he ran over. And I'm sure they're trying to tell him in the car the condition of the driver.
And just as he bore in for a possible pass, we cut away to pick up one of the Benettons. I would suspect that's probably...
Must be Nelson Piquet, I was sure, because otherwise we wouldn't be watching it.
Ayrton Senna is now pitting. Let's hear from John.
Ayrton Senna coming into the very first pit stop area. They had a little bit of trouble with the tires. Joe Ramirez doing some work on his visor. He was totally covered in oil. He hasn't really been following anyone, that there is some oil out there somewhere. They're getting all set up for his teammate Gerhard Berger.
Meanwhile, the battle continues on the racetrack. 5th place, Jean Alesi trying to hold off 6th place, Nelson Piquet. We'll take a quick break and return to Constructors Association. You're watching your leader, Ayrton Senna, who's doing, excuse me, is that Gerhard Berger up front? I beg your pardon.
Well, after all that schmozzle in the pits, I'm not surprised you're getting confused. I'm as confused as heck up here. We keep going from one car to another on these camera shots, and we haven't got a clue where we're going. We've got the best 121 and a tenth or so, so he's just losing ground by a few tenths a lap anyway.
And you better believe that Alain Prost has probably got a little bit of a smile on his face behind the helmet in the leading Ferrari. Remember, he and Ayrton Senna were teammates at McLaren last year, and they absolutely hated each other. From the third race of the year in Imola, Italy, they did not even speak to each other, and the season finally came to a very dramatic and unfortunate conclusion. Prost becoming world champion in Japan when the two drivers collided while running first and second in the Japanese Grand Prix. Prost, of course, did not run in Adelaide, the rain-drenched race that wound up the season. He and Senna are absolute arch enemies. Let's get a comment from John Bizignano in the pit lane.
Bob, you were speaking about the problems last year between the McLaren teammates. Well, Alain Prost moved to Ferrari, of course, and on the grid here in Brazil, he went over to Mansell's car, and the two of them made a deal for turn one. I couldn't find out exactly who was supposed to go through first, but Prost certainly wanted to make it absolutely clear who was going to make it through there first and have nothing stupid happen to him. It certainly paid off for him, but because the deal didn't work in McLaren doesn't mean it can't work in Ferrari.
There you see Gerhard Berger making his way through in second place, going by one of the Tyrrells.
That was Nakajima, who I know just kept well out of the way that time. Going down to turn uno. Gerhard Berger also losing ground, slowly but surely, to this man here, Alain Prost, who's leading the race.
Now that was either dust or smoke out the back of the Ferrari. I hope we get another close look at it. Remember how he smoked and finally blew up in Phoenix 2 weeks ago. So the drama may be far from over here in Brazil.
Prost leaping away there through this very, very twisty track. Difficult to overtake on here because the road moves so much that it only needs, difficult to overtake when you're racing with someone because the road moves so much that all the lead driver's got to do is take his line, and it's very difficult to get around him.
Now there you see Alain Prost working his 49th lap, is now 11 seconds ahead of Berger, who is slipping further behind. Meanwhile, Ayrton Senna in third place is down to 22.9 seconds behind Berger, leaving him 33.8 seconds behind Prost. So as you predicted, David, Prost is really cutting some fast laps, and he is maintaining his lead over the field.
Prost just did a 1:20.2, which must be getting on for the fastest lap of the race. We don't have that information in the booth, but it's a very good.
Nelson Piquet is there, and so is John.
Very quick stop for the other Brazilian, the other world champion, Nelson Piquet. About a 7-second stop on our watches. All new Goodyears all the way around, no problem whatsoever, but it is a little bit late in the race.
Late indeed, with 49 laps now complete. 22 laps remain in the Brazilian Grand Prix. The McLaren of Gerhard Berger is second. Alain Prost is leading.
Yes, I spent a lot of time in Brazil too, with the family, and it was a quite good summer for me.
Training, testing, relaxing a bit, not much because unfortunately it was a very short winter with many tests.
Oh, this year was very busy. I work quite a lot, and I did a lot of sport. I tried to play golf a little bit, but in the winter it's difficult in Europe, so I went to ski a little bit, but we had not too much snow. So it was difficult winter because I had to work, and I did not enjoy a part of working, did not enjoy very much.
Sleep, look after girls, skiing.
I've been most of the time home in Brazil, just enjoying life away from motor racing.
Once again this year, you too can ask a question of a Formula One World Championship driver. Make it a good one. Send it to Ask the Driver, Post Office Box.
More vital points, which will still keep him at the head of the table, but at least it gives Prost, this guy here, Alain Prost, the current leader, a good leg up with 9. And of course it'll put Berger back in the picture, who also went away pointless from Phoenix after making that mistake and going into the tyres that we saw, and of course of which we had a replay, and we're not going to get any replays here of what's happening out there, especially the exciting thing. Alain Prost going around, that looked like Nakajima.
Who right now is being very careful about going into corners.
Yeah, he's not going to take another race leader out. Otherwise you get the old sword out, do a bit of shirt slipping.
Alain Prost, should he win this race, would crack several milestones. It would be his 40th Grand Prix victory. Second man on the list, of course, Jackie Stewart with 27. It's been 2 years since Alain Prost became the all-time winningest driver in Formula One history. It would also be the 98th career victory for the Ferrari team, the all-time winningest team in Grand Prix racing, and the only team that has competed in each season of the Formula One World Championship since it was him on the 7th row of the grid. As it is, it may carry him to victory. We'll be right back to the Grand Prix of Brazil. Cities. High-rise buildings like these stretch for mile after mile as far as the eye can see, housing a population estimated at some 17 million and producing fully 1/3 of the gross national product of Brazil. Don't forget, coming your way on ESPN, Major League Baseball this year, Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, live action featuring all 26 Major League teams. We start the season Tuesday, March 27th, with the New York Yankees visiting the New York Mets, starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, followed on Thursday, March 29th, also at 7:30 Eastern, the Kansas City Royals versus the Houston Astros. Check it out, Major League Baseball, right here on ESPN. At long last, the baseball season will get underway. You're on board in the Williams Renault, being piloted by Terry Boutsen, who's had quite an interesting day here, including knocking down a couple of his mechanics in the pit. He climbs the hill now, past the pit entrance, past the grandstand, packed with 75,000 maniac Brazilians, hoping that Ayrton Senna can somehow move up from 3rd position. Let's listen in to the sound of this Renault in Terry Boutsen's car.
Straight from 6th to 2nd there.
To put himself out of a race, as he did in Monaco a couple of years ago by driving too hard and crashing. Certainly as he did in a situation like that, coming together a slower car. Now I believe this is Prost overtaking one of the Benettons. Let's see how he handles a passing maneuver. This is on the infield portion. Short downhill run, tight left-hander coming up. And then uphill.
So Alain Prost is going to be pretty jolly careful about how he passes anybody and where he passes them, because he's got a 16-second lead on Berger, and he really has been setting an electrifying pace here.
There's Ayrton Senna. Will not see Prost put a pass on the Benetton. Down to the start-finish line comes first a Ligier, followed by one of the Tyrrells, and finally Ayrton Senna, the 3rd-place car. Giovinazzi, who was smoking earlier, has made his way into the pits. He will drop out while running in the 5th position, and that will elevate his teammate Terry Boutsen to 5th place. Don't forget, our next event on Formula One's World Tour here on ESPN will be the Grand Prix of San Marino, May 13th. We'll be coming to you live in the morning. Just the beginning of 8 races. Most of the European dates will be live. Lots of Formula One action still to come this year, and as we can tell from both Phoenix and the race here in Brazil, there is going to be plenty of action, lots of drama, and an exciting World Championship indeed.
Lots of early morning coffee will be called for during the summer. People getting up at 5 o'clock out on the west coast saying, oh, I must watch that Grand Prix from Imola or Monte Carlo or wherever it is. Silver City. Well, we saw that action here on the track too.
But he's not off the board yet, so we'll consider him still a runner. One of the Benettons now pulling up on one of the Tyrrells.
Decided against that. That's just the last lap.
Could be Piquet and Alesi. Now, if Piquet can take this position, that will put him up into the points. Nelson Piquet looking for 6th place right here, and he has got 1 lap in which to do it.
It was too bad we have to go away from that.
But here is the checkered flag. Alain Prost is across in points, and there is a deafening silence from the estimated crowd of 100,000 here in Brazil. Alain doesn't care. He says, I beat Senna. I've won for Ferrari. There is Senna making his way across unofficially in 3rd place, 33.5 seconds down to the leader. Gerhard Berger preceded him, 16 seconds in arrears in 2nd place. Nigel Mansell will come across the line in 4th position, followed by Terry Boutsen, and perhaps Nelson Piquet has salvaged a bit of Brazilian honor and may score that 6th and final point.
And Michael Cranerton Ford would be ecstatic if he had.
Senna crosses the finish line.
And he does.
And Piquet picks up 6th. John Alesi just nudged out to 7th position after that stirring second he scored 2 weeks ago in Phoenix. Now there has to be a bit of...
When his car went past here, I thought it sounded a bit rough. He could well have broken an exhaust header, which just leaks away a few vital horsepower.
Especially when you're running against Ford's Benetton exclusive V8. Your leader and your winner is Alain Prost, his 40th career Grand Prix victory. We watched history here today in Brazil. We'll be back to wrap things up in one of the world's great cities, and we've certainly enjoyed being here. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Grand Prix of Brazil has been brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. By Suzuki Motorcycles and ATVs. Suzuki, the ride you've been waiting for. And by Budweiser. Beechwood 8 for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. His record 40th Formula One Grand Prix victory moves Alain Prost to second in the Drivers' World Championship with 9 points. Ayrton Senna leads with 13, followed by Jean Alesi, Gerhard Berger, and Terry Boutsen tied for third with 6 points. Nelson Piquet now has 4. Nigel Mansell, Stefano Morita, and Satoru Nakajima fill out the point scorers thus far in 1990. David, your thoughts?
Well, all I can say is that Ayrton Senna is going to watch that replay and he's going to say, why? Poor old Ayrton.
John Bizignano, what'd you think of today's race?
Well, the race ended in silence, but there certainly was celebration in Ferrari. Alain Prost winning for Ferrari in round 2 of the World Championship. Can you imagine what San Marino is going to be like in May?
And I can imagine that San Marino is now sold out with news of Ferrari's victory. We hope you'll join us live for that race. We're going to come on at 8:25 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, the 13th of May. I'm Bob Barsha for John Bizignano and David. Good luck in Japan and the sports cars. Thanks for joining us, everyone.